Welcome home, everyone. Thank you for joining in on this episode of Welcome Home with the Katinas. Welcome Home is a podcast where I, your host Josh, sit down for a conversation with different people who I admire and discuss whatever's on their mind, and especially focus on life at home in times like this. Wherever you are and however you're listening, thank you for your support, and once again, welcome home.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of Welcome Home with Katinas. My name is Eli, and I am Josh's younger brother, and this week I have the privilege of hosting Welcome Home with the Katinas. I don't know where you're listening from, but I hope you are enjoying the month of March. Here in Nashville, Tennessee, it's been pretty rainy, but we are wishing for some warmer weather soon, but we hope that your year is off to a great start. We especially want to thank our monthly partners that help support this show. It's only by your generosity that we are able to bring this content to you every single week. If you're interested in partnering with the Katinas and Welcome Home with the Katinas podcast, please go to thekatinas.com, click on the give page. You'll find a landing page where you can put your information. All the support that you choose to donate to this show really helps us out, and we really appreciate it. Yeah. Josh, it's good to be here. I'm excited for this week's episode.
Thank you, bro. It's been a while since, because you've done this before. You've been the host of the show, interviewing me. I think it's been over a year now, and I figured maybe this week would be a good time to let you lead the show and maybe ask me a question or two. And so you did a great job last time. I know you'll do a great job this time. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. I'm honored and I'm excited. I've had a couple of days to prepare for this week's episode. And Josh, I know that you are technically a recurring guest, and I know there's a format for recurring guests that differs from first-time guests.
Correct.
However, I'm the host of today's show, so even though that you typically just do one question, I have prepared a couple of questions for you to set up this week's episode.
That's awesome.
So Josh, you are a musician, an artist. We live in a city where it's very common. It feels like probably compared to most of America, that being an artist in Nashville is awesome and it's unique, but it's probably not that unique compared to a lot of other states.
Sure.
And as someone who's an artist and who has a passion for music, I'm curious, in your own words or from your perspective, what does it mean to succeed in the music industry or to be a successful musician from a career standpoint? When you think about being an artist and pursuing music, what does that mean to you?
That is a great question, E. So it's funny you bring that up because literally last night, Alexis and I, we went out to a dinner in Nashville for one of our friends' birthdays. And there was probably 12 people there. And some of them I'd never met before. We just had this mutual friend who was having a birthday. And so we were doing the whole small talk. So what do you do? What do you do? And I feel like this only happens in Nashville, where I met 3 other artists at this dinner last night. And they're all pursuing music, pursuing their dreams. And so we kind of got to talk about that a little bit. But to answer your question about what does it mean to be successful, I think that definitely varies from person to person. So I really can only answer for myself. And I would say for me, it would be just on like a baseline level, success would be to be able to pay my bills with money I make from music. That would be a level of success that I hope to reach one day, hopefully very soon. Another thing, which I think maybe is a little more abstract and not necessarily easy to quantify, but I still think it's just as important, is a successful artist is somebody who is able to make music that they themselves love. And, I feel like you hear this all the time. Well, I hear this all the time, that if you want to be successful, you got to be unique. You got to have your own sound. You've got to, but you still have to have, like, the catchy radio choruses and the clever wordplay, but it's got to be digestible by everybody. And I don't know, there's lots of rules on how you should make your music if you want to be successful to the masses, which I think there probably is some truth to that. But I also feel like the whole unique thing and kind of having your own sound, it's hard to do that if you're not making music that you yourself don't like. And what I mean by that is, like, when I sit in the studio and I'm working on a song, I'm trying to keep the focus as if I'm making music that I'm just going to listen to in my car. Because that is the truth. One, I do listen to my own music a lot just to try and judge myself, but also, like, it is music that I enjoy. And ultimately, there's no guarantee that anyone will ever listen to my music outside of myself and I guess my family. So it would be a shame if I wasn't making music that I didn't enjoy listening to. So I hope that answers your question. But I think, again, I think that varies from person to person. And, that's really up to the artist to decide for themselves.
Definitely. I love that answer. I think that what you're describing, making music that you love, even though you're also trying to support a family and start a career and make music that's palatable for the masses, is definitely a balance. I'm just curious for you. So you walked away from corporate America, 9 to 5s. Are we a month in of you being self-employed or independent from?
We're actually over a month. It's been a month and a half now.
Yeah.
It's been.
How's that been? I'm just curious. Is it everything that you hoped for? Is it, because I think there's so many people that have a dream, they have a passion, but they either have a family or a spouse that are dependent on them, and they have certain levels of, they just need security in their lives, and very few people take the leap to leave a secure job that pays a salary to pursue what they're passionate about. You're living that out right now, and we're about 6 weeks in. What has your experience been like? Is it everything you hoped for? Are you happy? Are you frustrated? Are you somewhere in the middle? How are you feeling?
I feel great. It's been a joy, like, getting to spend way more of my time doing things that really matter to me and I really care about. And I do want to make it clear. So yes, I did quit my job, my previous corporate job. I'm no longer with them, but I am still working with the Katinas on a part-time basis, and so I still am putting in time towards that, and obviously things like this podcast and the Cousins reunion that's coming up. I've been involved in a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for that, but outside of that, I do have a lot more free time. And when I say that I want to pursue music, it's not like I have somebody
overseeing.
no one's giving me deadlines. Or it's really up to me how much I'm going to do, what I'm going to do with that time. And so it's easy in the sense that it's easy for me to get in the studio and make music because I love doing it. It's hard though, because I'm so used to these last 3 years of having, like, concrete deadlines and benchmarks that I have to hit, and just everyday tasks that I have to do. I don't have that anymore. And so if I'm being honest, like it kind of feels like I'm just moving in slow motion.
Hmm.
And I know that I'm doing what I need to do, and I'm where I need to be. I definitely know I'm putting in the necessary work, but I'm not really seeing like concrete results. And I know it's only been 6 weeks, but that's just how I am. Like, I guess it's how I've been conditioned to think over these last 3 years. It's like, well, where am I? What have I done so far? And so, I don't know. I think it's really scary. I was actually telling the uncles this the other day that where I was previously at my previous job, I wasn't happy, but I was at least able to tell myself that I was on like a path, like I could see, okay, if I can be here in 5 years, I can be here in 10 years, I can be here in 30 years. All of that was laid out for me. And there is a sense of security that comes from that, that I don't really have right now.
Yeah.
And so that is a scary thing that I'm learning to live with every day. That, I want to be producing music for other people. I want other people to pay me to produce music for them, or I want people to pay to listen to my music. But that's like a thing that there's no like 30-year plan for that. That just at least from where I'm at right now, if you guys have a 30-year plan, I'd be excited to hear it. But from where I'm at right now, it's just like something you have to keep doing and doing and doing
Yeah.
over and over again. So that's my answer for how things are going.
That's awesome. Well, dude, I'm proud of you. I think it takes a lot of courage to, in a sense, remove the safety net in your life that is a salary for the sake of pursuing something that you really care about. And I think what you're doing is super courageous, and I commend you. And I know you're gonna succeed, dude. I think that's the awesome part is like I know you. I've known you my whole life. And you're living in the tension right now because some days it feels like you're on top of the world. Other days, I'm sure it's like, what am I going to do next? But I know who you are. I know your character, and I know you're somebody that figures things out. So, yeah, my encouragement for you would be, even in the days where it feels like I don't know what the next step is, embracing the journey, because there will become a day where you are doing everything you're hoping and wishing for now. And that's going to be awesome. But I think you'll look back on these past 6 weeks to 6 months to, it could be 6 years.
Yeah.
And I think who you are now and the work ethic that you're developing and the things that you're dreaming about and the projects that you're creating will be fond memories for you. So
Yeah.
I'm excited for
Thank
you.
you.
I'm proud of you. And I think it's super awesome that you're pursuing your passions.
Thank you. I just yesterday I was listening to a song that I've been working on in my car, and I was driving home from the office, and I was just thinking about how much self-belief I'm asking of myself right now. And I've always felt like I feel like I grew up with people in my life who told me to believe in myself, and that's something that is kind of, I've always known, oh yeah, you should believe in yourself or whatever. And I felt like I always did believe in myself, but yesterday I really had to question myself. Like, I'm listening to my own music. I'm like, do I really believe in this music? Like, do I really believe this is good? Do I really believe that people are going to want to hear it? And I think I'm probably going to have to ask myself that a lot and really decide every day to believe in myself in a new way, a way I haven't had to in the past, because I just know, like, if I don't believe in it, like truly to my core, believe that it has value and it's good and it's special, then it's going to be really hard for me to ever find success. And so that's it means a lot to me to hear from you that you believe in me. And so that's encouraging to me. So thank you, bro.
Absolutely. Speaking of self-belief and dreams, I'm trying to segue this next question as best as I can. But I will say, you are living, in a sense, the American dream. In very few countries, to the best of my understanding, I feel like the idea of having a passion and turning that passion into a career, I feel like that is unique to America.
Yeah.
I love America. I love the American dream. Part of being a citizen of the United States of America means that we do something. And it is something that most people dread and probably don't look forward to. But it's applicable to this season in the year. It's March 22nd. Today, one thing Americans do is we pay taxes. I can remember being a senior in high school, 17 years old. My teacher of home economics and personal finance, he said this quote. He didn't come up with it. I cannot remember. It escapes me who said this. But one wise man once said, two things in life are inevitable: death and taxes. So I'm curious. Maybe you filed your taxes. Maybe you're like me and you kind of wait to the last minute. Josh, what is your opinion and ideology when it comes to paying our taxes? That's something I'm passionate about and curious about, because it's something that we do every single year, and it's important, but it's also costly. And I think our listeners would enjoy hearing your perspective on paying taxes.
Well, I don't know if they're going to enjoy it, but I'll try and share what I think about it. I do not like paying my taxes, although I do it. And I think the reason paying taxes is a frustrating experience to me is not necessarily just because it's costing me money. But if I'm being honest, like, I'm not necessarily satisfied with the way my tax dollars get used all the time. And maybe some of that's because I'm not educated enough on how it works, or I hear too much stuff on social media about, well, they're using your tax money for X, Y, and Z. But I don't know. I do feel like if I knew that my taxes were going towards causes that I felt were just, and or reasons that I felt like, oh yeah, that's necessary, I feel like it would be easier to swallow. Like, I know that, some of my taxes go to the fire department or whatever. I'm glad we have a fire department. I'm glad that if my house catches on fire, I can call someone and they're going to come here and put the fire out. I'm glad that we have roads that we can drive on, and I'm glad that we have schools that kids can go to and learn. But I guess I feel like there's way more of the things that's like, man, is the government really forking out millions of dollars for that?
Yeah.
And I'm paying for it. When I say the government's paying for it, that's taxpayers are paying for it. And
Right.
so I don't know. I think I'll probably never be satisfied with how the government spends our tax money. But it's just something, it's a part of what we do here in America. And I do want to say this, that kind of tying back into your previous question and being an American and pursuing the American dream today. I do want to say this, that part of the reason I felt bold enough to take the leap that I've taken recently is because I know that I'm not the only person with a dream like mine. And I know that there's lots of people with dreams of, man, I wish I could just do this and try and make a living off of it or whatever it is. But the majority of those people they don't live in a country where that opportunity is afforded to them.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky enough to live in a place where it is, where I can try and make money off of making music in my house.
Right.
And so it almost felt like, to me, like I'm obligated to at least try, because there's so many people out there who could never, they can't try, because that's just not how the society that they live in works. And so I definitely credit the country I live in to partially to being why I was able to take this leap.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's taxes, and then I tied it back into the American dream. So
I love it. Great answer. That's awesome.
thank you, bro.
Thank you for answering those questions.
Yeah.
So, as we transition into really what the heart of this podcast is about, the mission of Welcome Home with the Katinas, is really gathering, or at least from my perception, gathering people's perspectives of what's going on at home. I think it's amazing when we open up, safe space to talk about this, because everyone's home life is so different. Home is a subjective term. I think some people have fond memories when they think of home. Other people's maybe can't relate or don't have, the same sense when they think about home. I'm in your home now, in your home office, home studio. So I'm just curious, Josh, what is going on at home?
Good question, bro.
Thanks, dude.
What's going on at home? Well, so I am spending a lot more time at home now. The way my day usually works, at least Monday through Friday, is I'll go into the Katina's office in the mornings and spend my mornings there working with the Katinas. And then at lunchtime, I come home. Roscoe is waiting in this room for me. I'll take him out. I'll feed him lunch. I'll eat lunch myself. And then, kind of like I was talking about earlier, usually have 4 or 5 hours here with just me and Roscoe until Alexis gets home from work. And so it's really up to me how I want to spend that time. And so most of the time I have been home, I'm either working on my own music, or I'm working on stuff like this podcast, or some stuff for the Katinas. So I'll just be here in this room actually for my afternoons. And then it is a little different than what I'm used to, having my wife come home to me, because the way things worked before was usually she would be home when I got home, because I was driving home from Nashville. And so I'm learning that a lot of the atmosphere in the house that she comes home to is my responsibility. And so I'm always around that 4:45, 4:50 mark. I'm thinking, okay, is there any... Well, hopefully I was thinking before, but I'm trying to make sure that the house is clean for Alexis, that, she's coming home to a peaceful home, because I know that's something that was really important to me when I was working my corporate job, was that my life from 7 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. is not very peaceful. So it'd be really nice to come home to a place that's peaceful. And so I try to make a peaceful atmosphere for my wife to come home to. So that's kind of what my day-to-day life at home is. Right now, I will say, so some of the things I'm looking forward to just in my life with Alexis is, and this is, I wouldn't have been able to do this in my previous job, but we're going to be traveling a little bit over the next few months.
Let's go.
Yeah. So
where are you going?
So next, our first small trip is next weekend. We are celebrating Alexis's 25th birthday.
Wow.
And we're going to be going to...
Happy birthday.
Yeah. Happy birthday, honey.
Quarter century.
Yes. We're going to be celebrating by going to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and we're spending the weekend at Dollywood.
Oh my goodness.
So that's a trip that we're going on. And then let me think. We got a few other ones lined up. I don't know all the dates of these, but it's all from like right now through like August of this year. So over the next 4-ish months.
Well, in August too, we're going to the lake together.
I was going to get to that, bro.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So we're going to be at the Cousins reunion in Oceanside, California.
June.
That's going to be exciting. We're also visiting Alexis's grandmother this summer, and going to her grandmother has a beach house out in Myrtle Beach area.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing that.
Is that July?
I think that's also in June.
Oh, nice.
So I said Cousins reunion. I said the beach. We are going to the lake house of our family friend, former guest of the show, Dan Lascano.
Uncle Dan.
Yes, we're going to be doing that this summer. And then all of those trips are big, but like the big one is we're going to be going to Mexico in August with me, Alexis, our cousin Jackson, and his lovely wife Leah.
Amazing.
To celebrate. We're celebrating Jackson's graduation from PT school, and then also on the side celebrating me and Alexis's wedding anniversary. So
That's so. I'm so jealous. I was supposed to go on that trip.
yes, I wish you guys could come, but you guys are doing something much more important.
We're having a baby.
Yes.
I don't know if it's more important. It's just that would be tough to leave our newborn.
I would feel weird if you guys came with us.
Me too. I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you, bro.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
dude.
so that's what's going on at home. That's kind of what I'm
love
gearing
it.
up for this next season of the year.
Yeah. One thing you said, I think it's anyone who's self-employed kind of goes through this. Thank you. And so you're experiencing the transition of having, someone else tell you how to spend your time. And, a lot of people who work corporate jobs, they have their weekly schedules laid out for them. And I think it's super interesting because I don't know who it was, but someone at some point in time decided that the adequate work week for a person is 40 hours a week. So you should spend 8 hours every day, Monday through Friday, working at your job. So I'm just curious. I think that is the biggest shift. You go from having 40 hours a week dedicated to there's 120 hours in a week, right? So
I think it's a lot more than that.
all right,
actually.
well, whatever. So we'll just say we'll say a third. A third of your week. I did 40 times 3.
Oh, yeah.
A third of your week, Monday through Friday, is dedicated specifically towards a career and occupation. What are your thoughts? Like when you think of one thing I'm curious is like I feel like we don't ask like why should we work 40 hours a week? Like who decided that?
Yeah.
How do you feel when it comes to now being in charge of your own schedule? You get to select how you spend your time, what you spend it towards, whether it's work or spending time with Alexis or walking Roscoe. What are your thoughts when it comes to like, this is the amount of time that I should spend pursuing an occupation versus the amount of time that I should spend just like enjoying life? Because it like when you start pursuing your dream and when you become your own boss, you kind of get to decide like this is how much time I'm going to spend working.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
So, I mean, to be honest, like, if I could do it, and I'm not saying this like, this is truly how I feel. If I could do it, I would spend 16 hours a day in the studio working. Not, and it's just because I enjoy it that much and it fulfills me that much. And so, with that being said, currently I'm not necessarily seeing like a direct correlation to how many hours I spend in the studio and how much money I make off of my music, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for me to be spending that much time in the studio. I guess what I would say to answer your question, how much time should you be spending working and how much time should you be spending enjoying your life, I think is what you said. I guess that it just depends on like how much you like work or not, and how much attention you're able to give the people in your life who matter to you, how much attention you're able to give them. So like I will say this, so the 40-hour work week, that wasn't always a thing. Before the workers' rights movement, there used to be no cap on how many hours a week that you could work. Did you know this? Have you ever
No.
heard this?
No.
Okay. Well, I want to say it was like in the 1920s, probably 100 years ago. The laborers had to fight for that right of like 40 hours a week. Because now in America, the way it works is if you work anything you work more
Right.
than 40 hours a week, you're now getting paid overtime.
Right.
So that's why most companies, they only want
Unless you're self-employed.
Yeah, unless
no
you're self-employed.
overtime. Yeah.
Yes. But if you're an American corporation, like that's why a lot of times they don't want their workers working more than 40 hours a week because it starts costing them a lot more money. But
Right.
it used to be like 80 hours. I'm not kidding. 80, 90 hours a week. Like that was normal. And that it's not like they were getting paid anymore for that. But anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. I think I'm lost where I was. Yeah, you just need to be able to find the balance between like being productive, and being proud of the work that you've put in, and then also like spending time with those people that matter to you, or at whatever it is outside of work that is important to you. Because I do think life is a big part of life is balance. And so
Yeah.
as much as I'd love to spend 16 hours a day in the studio, I wouldn't say that's a very balanced life.
Right.
And it probably sounds really good to me, but maybe it would all come toppling down after a while. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
About the 40-hour work week?
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. So, like for me personally, I've been self-employed since I was like literally graduated high school. And like I probably work like people ask me this all the time. Well, not all the time. On a few occasions, people have asked me, how many hours a week do you work? And like, I feel like I always work.
Yeah.
Like I've like conservatively, I probably work like between 65 and 70 hours a week. But I don't know. I think if you love what you do, like if you're pursuing, that's the thing. Like if your passion is to be self-employed, to be your own boss, like the line, it's a very gray area of like what's work and like what's you just pursuing like what you care about. I'm sure you relate with music. Like you just enjoy making music. So.
Yeah. Sometimes I could probably say I'm working 70 hours a week, but it just depends on what you actually consider work. Like,
Right.
for me, it's like being in the studio working on music or even working on these kind of podcasts. Like, it doesn't feel like work to me, but I guess technically I could say that I'm working.
Yeah.
Even when I'm not in the studio, like I'm constantly thinking about, oh, this song is this,
Yeah.
or I should promote this like that, or I'm always thinking about my work. So I don't know if you count that as working too.
No,
But
yeah. Like, and I think probably for when you're self-employed, like there's a high chance that like you love what you do. Like most people wouldn't be self-employed doing something that they didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
So like I love work. Like I work all the time because I just love what I love. what I'm pursuing and the positions that I fill at the jobs that I do. So I don't know. I think it's so interesting. Like work is just such a huge part of our life.
Yeah.
And we like many of us, I'm 23. Like most people work until they're 65 or 60. I don't know the statistic on it. I know if you're retiring before 60, you're retiring early, but like you just like work your whole life, and I don't know. I think it's like a lot of us when we talk about like, I think it's such a it's just an interesting part of like being human is all of us work, and we work so much, but like we work so much to the point that like no one really wants to talk about like work, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I just think it's interesting.
I do think sometimes I'll find myself thinking about like what it must have been like to, like, I think about like the Native Americans.
Yeah.
Like, really, your only responsibility is like you just need to, I shouldn't say your only responsibility, but you got to get your food, you got to make sure you have shelter, and you got to make sure you're safe from other tribes.
Yeah.
But you don't have to worry about like making money. You don't have to worry
Right.
about paying your water bill or getting life insurance or whatever. Like, you're just living. I don't know how to say this without sounding insensitive, but almost like an animal. Like
Yeah.
it's just surviving, and that's how you live. And I feel like I feel like people who lived like that were pretty happy with their lives. I would think,
Right.
but I've never lived like that, so I don't know. But sometimes I wonder, like, I feel like sometimes people romanticize like the idea of an apocalypse, like a zombie apocalypse or whatever it is, because all of a sudden, like that, all of the problems you have from work, they don't matter at all anymore.
Right.
Now all you have to do is worry about food and shelter and water and keeping your family safe.
Yeah.
And as horrible as a zombie apocalypse would be, I do feel like there would be like a lot of there would be people who felt relief from not having to worry about the things that we worry about as people who work.
Yeah. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
I just think it's fascinating that like a huge part of like who we are is what we do. And that just it's like a huge spectrum. Like the marketplace is so broad of there's people who do so many different types of jobs.
Yeah.
And I think one thing that's super interesting, like for me, I know family is really important to me. I know it's important to you. It's a huge part of this podcast. This podcast is named Welcome Home with the Katinas. The Katinas are a family. And most people, including myself, spend more time working than we do with our family.
Yeah.
And that is just, it's wild.
Yeah, Alexis talks to me sometimes because a couple weekends ago, I got to go with her to this work outing. Her company, I won't get into the details, but they were like sponsoring an event on the
saw
weekend.
that.
Yeah, so I went with her.
What was it called?
Oh man, I forget what it was called. You would have loved it. It
It was like an outdoor vibe.
yeah. So
there was barbecue.
So one of the companies is, I try not to get into the weeds of what Alexis does, but part of their business is they sell firewood. They sell firewood to like restaurants who do like open fire stuff, all that. So they sponsored this event, and it was basically just a bunch of vendors that were making food. It was a competition. They were making like little one bites. But the only rule was it had to be made over an open flame, a wood fire flame. So, anyways, I went there and we were with her coworkers, and I love the people Alexis works with. Uncle Xander, who's been on the show before, is one of those people. But on our way home, Alexis was like, "Don't you love those people?" I was like, "Yeah, you're lucky that you work with such great people, honey." And she was like, "It's funny to me that I probably one of her coworkers' name is Anil. She's like, I probably talk to Anil more than I talk to you about things, and
Yeah.
it's true because she's there in the office with them, like you said, 8-ish, sometimes more hours a day.
Yeah.
It's a that's why it's you're a blessed person if you like who you work with.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What is this? What is her does the company have a name? I just know it. She works for
Yeah, I
Mr.
think
Brad.
it's called Next Companies, NXT Companies, but I'm not.
Nice.
They do like there's several. It's an umbrella of like several other businesses that they
Yeah.
run.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, Josh, we've talked about work. We've talked about the correlation that has with just like family. And I'm going to put some pressure on you, dude, because it is relevant to the stage of life that I'm in right now. So as we kind of conclude our conversation, I'm curious. We've had some discussions on the side. So the question is, how do you feel, or what is your heart or desires when it comes to expanding your family? Because your family right now is you and Alexis and Roscoe,
yeah,
and we love all of them. And I think it's interesting, like when you're expecting a child, when you're having kids, like for me, like all I want is for like other people to have kids. So I'm my final question for you, like what, when you think about, do you want to be a dad someday? What kind of dad do you want to be? What do you envision for your family? What are your thoughts when it comes to my son having a cousin?
yeah. So first thing I'll say is that I don't feel like everything I say only matters so much because this having kids is something that both me and Alexis are in agreement on, and both of our opinions matter. And so I'll just start off by saying that everything I say, take it with a grain of salt because Alexis is always a part of that decision making process as well.
Definitely.
Short answer is yes. I want to be a dad one day. I want to have kids. I want to be a father. If you're asking for like a timeline, I don't know if
I
I
am
could.
asking
Yeah.
for a timeline.
Well, I'll say this: God's will is God's will. So, if God blessed us with a child today, then we'd be thankful for that. And I know that we're not. It's in God's hands ultimately. But if we had it our way, up to our plan, I would say we're still a little bit away from having kids. I think there's some things that we want to have for ourselves, like we want to buy our own home, hopefully before we have kids. We want to just me as personally, like I would like to be able to say that I'm providing with music
Yeah.
before we have a kid come along. And I don't know, I would say God's will be done, but we're still a little bit away.
Yeah.
That's my answer.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. I can't wait for you to have kids.
I thank you, bro.
I know you're going to be a great dad. And yeah, I think God's will, whatever the timeline is, it doesn't matter.
I will say this too, and hopefully this isn't a damper on things, but I do want to recognize that there's also no guarantee that Alexis and I will be able to have biological children.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, I hope that we are able to. I hope everything is great, but I also understand there's plenty of couples out there who that's just not in the cards for them. And it's possible that me and Alexis are one of those couples. And I also would say that I feel like kids, I want to have kids not as I don't want my reasoning to be, man, it will make me so happy once I have a kid, or having a kid will fill this hole in my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a kid like that. I don't want to have that intention when going into having my first kid. I hope that it's a place where I feel like God has put me in a position where I'm able to provide for this kid, not just financially, but emotionally. I can be a leader in his or her life. I can be a protector in their life. I can be all of these things that I think a father should be. I hope that it's almost like I feel like it's a responsibility of mine, that
Yeah.
not necessarily an answer to a problem, but something that I'm called to be doing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm excited.
Thank you, bro.
Dude, thanks for having me. I'm honored that you asked me to interview you. And I want to, dude, I'm so proud of you, just with, like we talked about during this episode, pursuing your dreams. Also, like this doing a podcast every week is not easy, and I know you know that better than anyone. But I feel like this platform has been hopefully an encouragement, and I don't know if inspiration is the right word, but maybe affirmation that all of our homes are different. So as we conclude this episode of Welcome Home with the Katinas, I would just like to say that wherever you're listening from, and whatever home looks like for you, we hope in our heart is that this hour once a week can feel like home for you. So with that being said, that will conclude this week's episode. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week.